Bonsoir, bienvenue tout le monde, bienvenue aux séances ordinaires du Conseil municipal de la ville de Westmount pour lundi le 9 septembre. Welcome everybody to the regular council sitting in Westmount, for the city of Westmount for the 9th of September 2024. I'd like to call this session to order. I think we have quite a few updates in the room tonight, so I'm gonna start at this end of the room with District 8.
Thank you, Madame Mayor. Just a little reminder that public security and the SPVM are continuing to concentrate on school zone safety. So we ask parents to please respect parking regulations, double parking, don't double park, don't park on sidewalks or intersections, and respect the speeding traffic lights and stop signs. It's a busy time, so as parents, we have to play a role. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Aronson, I think you have an update as well.
Very quickly, Madam Mayor. I believe that my colleague, Councillor Bostock, will speak more to this point, but just a quick reminder that our garbage pickup schedule, this is for landfill only, not for compost and not for recycling, but for landfill, will, in October, be dropping down to bi-weekly pickup. So we're going to end up with 3 pickups in October and 3 in November, depending on whether you're in one zone or the other. But the recycling and the compost programs remain weekly pickup as normal. So as we adjust to this change, please do make sure to check the Engage Westmount website if you're looking for the schedule of when things are being picked up, and for more information about how to best sort your trash to make sure recycling goes in recycling and compost goes in compost to take some pressure off the landfill. I'm happy to announce that the Environmental and Sustainability Advisory Committee has begun its work and have begun our meetings. They've been productive thus far, and I look forward to being able to bring forward a package of policy advice to Council as scheduled. And finally, a brief word of congratulations to the organizers of the wonderful event that was held on Green Avenue this past weekend. For those of you who weren't able to attend, the street was closed for a classic car show, amongst other interesting attractions. And thank you all to those who worked hard to put it together, and for those who came out to support it. And with that, Madam Mayor, my report.
Thank you. Councillor Gallery.
Thank you, Madame Mayor. I have a few announcements. Bonsoir tout le monde. Nice to see so many people out tonight. Since our last council meeting, our pool has closed and our summer camp has ended. I just want to take a moment to thank our lifeguards and our camp counselors. They did an excellent job. It was another successful season, and we're very grateful to all the hard work and dedication they do to the program and to the city and for our residents and guests. Last Wednesday night was our sports banquet. I also want to thank the Sports and Rec Department for hosting a huge part of our community.
Record numbers.
Record numbers, the young people who played soccer and baseball and lacrosse, I believe. And it was a magical night in Victoria Hall, packed to the roof, and super evening. So thank you to the organizers and for all the volunteers in our programs who make these programs go. We couldn't do it without you. Last week was a busy week. We also had the 150th anniversary tea at outside the greenhouse and the gallery. We had a spectacular day on Thursday afternoon. Our community events organizers did an excellent job, and we had delicious treats and tea for everyone. And it was a very special afternoon to honor the 150th year of the city. And a reminder regarding the 150th year, Wednesday, October 9th is our grand celebration at Victoria Hall. You'll see posters all over the city. It's all over our website and social media. I hope you all buy a ticket. I hope you come and celebrate with us, and please spread the word to your friends and neighbors. And I have a few park updates. The good news is the Westmount Park Playground project is ahead of schedule. The approximate date of opening is October 7th, if all goes well and the weather stays cooperative. The Doug Ellis project, which is behind the WRC, there is a delay. There has been some construction issues, and we are working those out, and hopefully they'll get back on track shortly to complete the project. WAG, as many of you know who live down near Westmount High, We've replaced the structures there, and we'll be installing new rocks and a new fence, and we'll be sodding the area in the coming weeks. King George Park, Phase 3, we will be completing the pruning and the cabling. We will also be doing fall plantings, and we'll be completing the Phase 3 this fall and moving into Phase 4 in 2025. And lastly, regarding Summit Woods, the main entrances have been completed with rocks and plantation. We're currently closing smaller and what some people would call illegal trails that have led to odd parts of the woods. So they're in there encouraging people to stay on the main trails. Our forestry engineer is working on an updated map of all the trails, and we'll be building an inventory of the trees. And our administration actually met on August 29th with les Amis de la Montagne, and they had a very productive meeting. And the good news is we have the same objectives regarding reforestation and conservation, and we look forward to more collaboration with them going forward. So that's it from me.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bostock.
Good evening, everyone. I want to take a moment to remind you of an important change that is coming that will affect us all. As previously announced, starting October 1st, our city will be shifting garbage collection from once a week to every 2 weeks during the winter months. I want to emphasize that this decision was made with careful consideration. It's a critical step in our ongoing efforts to reduce waste, shift our habits, and contribute meaningfully to the fight against climate change. I understand that change can be challenging, but this adjustment is vital in reducing landfill waste. Our city has been proactive in preparing for this transition, launching educational campaigns to ensure that all residents are informed and ready. Our public works team will continue to support you as the implementation of this change rolls out. I strongly encourage every resident to incorporate composting into their routine. Composting is a simple yet powerful way to divert organic waste from landfills, significantly cutting down on methane emissions. For my own family of 4, composting has been easy to adopt. We store our compost in the freezer, and on collection day, it goes straight into the green bin, no mess, no smell, and a definite noticeable reduction in our weekly trash. I also want to highlight the additional benefits this change will bring. By reducing the frequency of garbage collection, we can lower operational costs and reduce the number of trucks on our streets each week. As landfill sites fill up, trucks are forced to travel longer distances, driving up costs. By managing our waste more efficiently, we help keep these costs in check. A digital copy of the new pickup schedule is available for download on the City of Westmount website, and you should have also received a paper copy in your mailbox last week. This is a collective effort. Small actions like composting, recycling, and reducing waste can make a big difference in minimizing our carbon footprint. So let's embrace this change and work together to make it sustainable.
Thank you very much. Councillor Peart.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I'll just provide you with a few updates on the ongoing infrastructure projects across the territory. So to start off with the water main relining that has happened on Braeside Place is completed. The road reconstruction work on Upper Lansdowne is ahead of schedule, and the project should be completed in early October. On Dorchester, the eastbound lanes between Clark and Green, what's happening, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on during the regular agenda, is that some additional concrete base repairs were required, which was beyond what had originally been anticipated, and so it will require a small contingency to address that change. Also, good news, the makerspace, we call it the makerspace in the Westmount Library. It's 95% complete. There's some minor electrical work and some CCTV work, but they expect this work to be completed, the project to be completed by the end of September, and a grand opening ceremony is scheduled for October. So I encourage you to keep your eyes on our social media, on our website to find out some more details on that. And a project that has kind of come up on a few attempts are the Roslyn Steps, the repair of the Roslyn Steps. It's progressed over the years, and now, yet again, we are, after some failed tenders, and we're now at the stage where we are pleased to announce that, again, tonight we'll be awarding a new contract for professional services, and the restoration project is scheduled on our PTI for 2025. So that's just a quick synopsis of, and I should not forget, the two main reconstruction projects that are planned for next year, one in Fordham and one on Claremont, both of which are in extended public consultation sessions. The next phase for Fordham is scheduled for Wednesday, September 11th at 5:30 p.m., at which time we will be presenting, or not us, but I mean the three options will be presented to the community for comment and feedback. So we encourage those who live on Fordham or in the immediate area to participate in that. And then I think once that session is over, the proposed designs will be then published online, again inviting more comment from the citizenry. Similarly, 2 weeks later on Wednesday, September 25th, also at 5:30 p.m., also at Victoria Hall, will be the same process for the project that is planned for 2025 on Claremont, Lorraine, all the way up to the Triangle. And so at that point as well, the citizens and those in the sector will be able to comment on the various schemes that are being presented for your review. And in both cases, what you'll see is three scenarios. In general, it doesn't mean that it's an all or none for any one of them. Often there are features of one which you might like to blend or meld with another one. But after getting the feedback on both of these projects, the consultants will then go back and reimagine, kind of massage into a preferred solution, which will be presented again at a later date for both of these projects. So I invite you to keep abreast of these projects on the Engage Westmount site. That's where we post all of our most up-to-date information on both these projects. And similarly, I encourage you to participate in these public consultations. Thank you.
The one other project that we should probably mention is Mountain, which is the water project that's being done on Mountain, which has been going on since June. We've had lots of requests, and we've been meeting with residents on the street about repaving that. That's going to take more than a repaving, because that will not solve the water issues that are happening on the surface of that road. But that is getting scheduled into our PTI as well as a project for next year. But we wouldn't be able to. There would be no point in paving it late this fall when we're finished, because it wouldn't actually solve the problem. That problem needs to be solved with some re-engineering on the street. So thank you very much. Councillor Roux has some updates.
Thank you. Alors, bonsoir. Dans le cadre du 125e de la bibliothèque, il y a des visites de la bibliothèque qui sont organisées. Je vous encourage à venir, même si vous pensez que vous connaissez bien la bibliothèque. Il y a toutes sortes de petits détails architecturaux et autres à découvrir. Ça vaut vraiment la peine. There are 15 people per tour, so you do need to register, and they're available in French and in English. Early in the summer, we told you how proud we were to have been the national launch for the TD Reading Club. So this weekend was the closing ceremony, and I'm happy to report that this year we had 399 participants, up from 210 last year. So these will probably lifelong readers, which is very important, not to just look at a screen and see little words and make up your mind on that, but can actually make it through a book and feel like it's interesting to read. So kudos to the organizers at the library. They did a fantastic job. Victoria Hall was decorated like a space lab, and the kids got a chance to learn about science. So that was great. For the Scrabble enthusiasts, I invite you to a Scrabble match in Westmount Park, weather permitting, I hope, Saturday, September 21st at 2 p.m. So you can test out your Scrabble skills against the champion for 2023 for North America, Josh Sokol. So he will play up to 12 simulation matches in the park, and it's for all level of players. So everybody's welcome. And then a fun event in Westmount. A lot of us are attached to the Expos or have Expos memories. So remembering the Montreal Expos with no other than Terry Mosher. So on Sunday, September 29th at 2 p.m. at Victoria Hall. So he will be there to tell us about his new book, Montreal Expos, A Cartoonist's Love Affair, and have memorabilia and bunch of little stories, or interesting stories, so that'll be fun. And then on Sunday, October 6th at 2 p.m., Laura Biocco, our librarian, online services and archives, will be giving a lecture on Rembrandt in the Westmount Public Library. So it'll be a teaser and I'll let her tell you all about it. Anne McCall's beautiful exhibit in the gallery at Victoria Hall goes on until September 27th. And as a Westmounder, I'm proud to tell you that this Saturday we are hosting a citizenship ceremony. So with the Department of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. It was my first time last year attending, and it's quite moving and reminds us all how lucky we were to be, many of us anyways, born with the right passport in our hands.
So this one's at Victoria Hall
Yep.
on Saturday morning, and it is a very, very moving event.
So there's
Always.
lots more. You can go look on the website. Thank you.
Okay, merci beaucoup. I think that's it for updates. We're going to move into the first question period. I would remind, I'll just take this opportunity to remind everybody about the rules we have in place for question period to make sure it runs properly, to state your name, and if you wish, your address, but you're not obligated, and you can have a short preamble and a question, and then we'll move on because there's going to be lots of questions behind you. So let's just be mindful of time. Welcome. Bienvenue.
Madam President, members of the committee, and fellow citizens, the subject tonight is, yet again, 500 Claremont, this time the trees. The background is that last Friday, September the 6th, the contractor removed 5 magnificent tall trees from the property. That's the south side of the 500 Claremont. There were other trees removed, but that is the main purpose of my comments tonight. The trees provided privacy to tens of neighbors, not only in Westmount, but also in NDG. Now it is like a disaster zone. You can look at it yourself. There are some trees left, but the main ones have gone. Now, at the start of the project, in 2017, the Public Consultation Committee, the chairperson of the Public Advisory Committee, stated that the trees were to be essential to the project and must be preserved. Related to her comment was about the trees was the fact that our neighbors felt relieved that we would be sheltered from the windows, which number 128, looking south at our backyards and at NDG as well, from this 6-story building. So my question, will the city of Westmount commit to correcting this situation by designing, planting, and reestablishing trees, tall trees, as well as shrubs along the targeted territory? Now, the territory is 5 feet by 57 feet and has no owner. It's not Westmount, it's not neighbors, it is somebody else who has long since deceased. My question to you is, will Westmount
We will certainly, I am unaware of what exactly has happened on this site. It sounds like it's a fairly new occurrence, but we will certainly look into, obviously, as you know, we take our tree canopy very, very seriously in the city of Westmount. You need a permit to do it. So I will have the urban planning department look into what exactly has happened, and we will get back to you on that. Do you want to add anything to that?
Just a precision, Mr. Philpott, the trees that were cut, were they on the, that middle strip of land, or were they on the property of 500 Claremont? Do you know?
Yes, they were on the property of 500 Claremont, except that they're on the south side of the existing fence. So on looking at the property, one might think that the fence designates the end of their property. It does not. Their property continues down the hill and includes these 5 trees and a number of others, some of which have been cut, but others of which are still standing, particularly on the outside their property. So there are still some trees, but
Okay.
it's nothing like it was.
Well, that's that is something that our inspectors are very used to inspecting. So we will. I see the Director General taking note, and we will look into this right away.
Well, it's too late for this project, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But Westmount can do something in the future to correct it.
Thank you for your question. Thank you for raising it.
Hi,
Welcome.
my name is Judith Henderson, and I live on St. Catherine Street by the Bethune Park, where there is ongoing construction of the Douglas Firstbrook Memorial Garden. I'm an author, a children's author, illustrator, and also a designer. I've seen the designs for the garden, and along with everyone I have spoken with, including a councillor member, no one feels that it is appropriate. In fact, everyone thinks it's a horrible design and has negatively impacted what was once a lovely green space. Would the council consider mitigating the negative impact by eliminating the addition of the plexiglass, and instead of pouring tons of concrete into the circular area, which is supposed to represent center ice, fill it with earth and plantings? I would also like to add that, which is a major consideration, that the concrete and plexiglass will only attract its desecration by graffiti. And that's my question. If you
Thank
can
you.
mitigate.
Thank you for your question. And I know that some people have raised concerns about this, and this is not an easy. This was not an easy memorial to come to. This is certainly one of the darkest chapters in Westmount history, and this was part of the lawsuit. And it took years to come to this with the victims and with the representatives of the victims. And it really was part of the lawsuit was that they would be a part of the decision-making process on what this memorial garden would look like. And it had several iterations. That's why it took several years to bring it back to this. There were some elements that were an absolute must for the victims group. One of them was the center ice. One of them was the boy. So it has been, we were able to scale it back quite a bit, but there's some elements in it that were very, very important to the victims group, and it was important to move forward with this, and this was one of the ways to do that. So I know the design is not for everybody, but I hope at the end of it we can all come together and remember what this is about. So I can't, design is not always supported by everybody. But this is a very important step in the process with the victims group.
Just in listening to some of the preamble here, there's a lot of discussion about green space. And everybody's talking about green space. And I can tell you, just as a mother, as an author, as a children's content creator, that the thing that I think is most important is that we try to retain the green space, and what we've done is absolutely filled it up with concrete. And this once lovely little space is now going to be just full of concrete and probably graffiti. And that I am hoping that what I have to say tonight is incredibly important, and that perhaps that if you go to the park and you look at it, you will see that you have to climb up steps and that you may want to sit behind, to observe the park, plexiglass, to look at a park where we never had plexiglass before. And that at the end of the day, what we're going to land up with is scratch plexiglass, graffiti, and a lot of concrete in a space that was very, very small. And so we're talking about conservation and teaching our children to not cut down trees, which we have done here, and we have destroyed a park. And we could have done, the design could have, I think the design was utterly and absolutely something that we needed to do. But this, I venture to ask every single person on council whether they like the design.
So thank you for coming. But it is, as Councillor Gallery was saying before, it is delayed, and when it is opened, I think it will be, we are in the thick of a construction site at this point. It is going to look better. There are going to be some beautiful elements of it that are a fitting tribute to it, the families, in particular Doug Ellis, who lost his life. They wanted it close to where the old arena was. They wanted skates that are going to be in bronze. There is going to be a dedication to him there. It was very important to have a center ice, and it was very important to have the boards. So, and to be near the WRC. So all. It's part of the settlement. So it's part of the design. So it's it may not be to everybody's taste, but I think we can all agree on the spirit behind the park. I think it's reflective of what Doug Ellis's mom wanted as a tribute to him. I'm not opposed to it. I'm proud of how the city handled this case afterwards, which was not easy. And this was a design that was built with the victims. So it's, that part was very important. So I think it right now looks terrible because it's a construction site. So anyways, we shouldn't do the back and forth, but I'm happy to discuss with you offline.
I'll sit behind with you, the plexiglass, if you'd like to, and we can sort of enjoy the birds.
We'll go get a coffee at the Mouton Noir and sit there. Okay, thank you. Next, prochaine question.
Hi, so Thomas Rolling, Claremont, Westmont. I have a question and then a comment for tonight. My first question is related to the question that I asked last month about the consultation process, the public consultation process for the Claremont renovation or construction, I should say. So I already raised concern a month ago about the transparency of the consultation process, and I'm here to reiterate that point with new elements. So tonight I would like to attract your attention on something that looks to me a bit strange. We will have 3 scenarios that will be proposed or submitted to the residents on September 25th about the Claremont reconstruction. However, this project is linked with a pilot project, the Claremont Triangle pilot project. And that pilot project is supposed to last until November. So my question is quite simple, really. How are you planning to have 3 scenarios submitted to the residents on September 25th while you don't have the full results from the pilot project, since that project is supposed to end up in November?
Do you have a subsequent question, or you want to?
No, that's after. Point? It's a comment.
Okay, Councillor Peart, do you want to answer this one?
Sure. As I've said before, the point of the pilot project is to test out some ideas and to learn from it, whether it works or whether it doesn't work, and to gain information. The consultant team that is working on the various options is participating in. They are actively involved in seeing the results of the of the pilot project. The pilot project is running in real time. It doesn't mean that they're going to wait for the close of the end date of the pilot project. There's information that they're able to gather at this point in time, which will inform. And additionally, as I said before, with the other schemes, it's an ongoing process. So there are, yes, in September we'll see the three schemes. I haven't seen anything. Like nobody around this table has ever has seen anything. So they have their mandate is to come up with scenarios. They will learn. They will gather information from the pilot project in real time. They'll present some options for all of us to understand and to analyze. And there's still time in that phase post September 25th to further work on their scheme, to develop their scheme even further to a, I won't say final version, but a almost final version, which I think will come in November. So it's an ongoing process, and bits of information will come in along that process. It's not a
The final proposal.
Councillor,
final proposal.
that's the whole point with my question.
Okay.
Is how can you ask the residents to commit to a final scenario in September if after September the project is still going to evolve? You understand?
So I understand your question, and I'll make a kind of a comment, because we're not looking for we're not asking the residents to commit to something. We're asking for the residents to comment on something. So the residents don't make the decision. It's not a plebiscite. It's not a referendum. It's not a referendum on a scheme. We're not saying 20% like this, 40% like this, or it's not. It's we're looking for feedback from the residents.
Sure.
It's not a decision.
But then why do you bother with public consultation then?
So that we can hear your feedback.
Yeah, sure, but if you don't take them into account, then what's the point?
Sorry, public consultation is to have the public participate in the development of the scheme. It's not necessarily to have it's necessarily to set up a mechanism for a referendum. If it was going to be a referendum...
Well, I know that. I'm not talking about any referendum. I'm asking you. You want to have public consultation, but if you don't provide the data to the people, how can they provide feedback? I mean, it's impossible. You are asking us to provide, like comments on a project that's not going to be over until November. So it's meaningless. So, but I agree that I think we're going to disagree on that specific topic all night. My second comment is about safety. I mean, since that pilot project has been erected, we have a lot of safety issues. People are getting frustrated all the way when they take NDG, especially at rush hour during 20-25 minutes. Once they are finally on Claremont and Westmount intersection, they speed up. They are fed up, they are really angry, and they speed up, either to go down Claremont, either to go on Westmount. The problem with that is that we're going to soon have an accident, okay? Because people are really, really nervous. I can hear them yelling at each other from my living room or honking at each other, okay? So I'm really asking you to stop, please, this pilot project before someone gets really hurt, injured, or even worse, killed.
So I can add to that as well. As I'm sure you have seen, that there is a lot of police presence in the area. There's a lot of public security presence in the area. There's administration is in the area. The traffic engineers are there. No. I mean, I've seen them. You've seen them.
They are not around when it's rush hour. They were there this morning. I met the Councillor Pert, 9 a.m. Rush hour starts at 7:30 p.m.
Okay.
A.m. Sorry.
So, in all of that, we are getting the data and the feedback, and you're sharing your feedback. That's the whole point of this. So, we are listening.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Isaac Hamaway, and I live on Westmount Boulevard, and also concerning the same project that Thomas spoke about. We've seen marked drivers are speeding up as soon as they take the left from Claremont onto Westmount Boulevard. And last week, on Friday, I was pulling out of my driveway. I drove about 50 yards, and I was rear-ended by somebody in that area. So was it speeding on his part? Could it be something that we should all be concerned about? Please look into it, because we see it daily that the people are driving very quickly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback. And hopefully you filled in the online survey. Prochaine question.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Fabrice Veil, Clermont. 2 sujets. Le premier, le projet pilote. Et 2, la sécurité des enfants sur Westmount, dont je parle depuis maintenant 1 an ou 2. Donc c'est 2 questions, mais les 2 projets sont liés. Donc je me suis présenté le mois dernier un peu naïvement, sans connaître beaucoup de détails sur le projet pilote de l'avenue Clermont. Grand défenseur de la démocratie intelligente, j'ai toujours eu tendance à faire confiance à nos élus locaux, en particulier à Westmount, où je voyais notamment un certain pragmatisme. Seulement voilà, cette confiance est ébranlée. Depuis que j'ai découvert que certains conseillers ne nous disent pas tout, et à commencer par M. Pert. Pour preuve, les différents articles dans le Westmount Independent, où quand on regarde ce que vous avez dit le 13 août, les commentaires, notes de la rédaction sur l'écrit de Thomas, et qui rappelait ce que vous disiez au dernier conseil municipal, en fait, vous ne racontez pas la même chose et vous nous cachez quelque chose. Donc je veux savoir, qu'est-ce que vous nous cachez? Parce que il y a eu un semblant d'appel d'offres pour une étude faite par WSP, qui devait déposer un appel d'offres avant le 15 avril, qui a répondu le 17 avril en mentionnant une demande du 5 avril pour quelque chose que vous allez payer 49 000 $. Donc l'étude WSP, elle coûte 49 000 $. Donc là, je fais un petit parallèle sur la sécurité dans Westmount. J'ai vu avec horreur le nombre de bandes blanches sur les passages cloutés qui ont été mises au coin de Sunnyside et Lexington, où là, il y a des dizaines et des dizaines de bandes blanches qui ont été peintes, alors qu'il y a 3 personnes par jour qui vont promener leur caniche. Je continue de passer sur Westmount devant Marianopolis et Roslyn, et je vois qu'il n'y a toujours aucune bande blanche sur aucun des croisements. Par contre, dans le cadre du projet pilote, vous avez une entreprise qui va venir 3 fois sur Clermont, au coin de Westmount, effacer la ligne jaune pour la remettre, pour l'effacer, pour la remettre, et même pas droite. Ensuite, ils vont effacer les passages cloutés pour en remettre, alors qu'il y avait déjà des lignes blanches. Donc ma question là-dessus, la première, c'est avec 49 000 $, est-ce que vous auriez pu peindre des passages cloutés à tous les croisements avant, pendant et après l'école Roslyn pour la sécurité des enfants? Parce que pour l'instant, de ce que je vois, c'est que vous, la sécurité des enfants, ça ne vous intéresse pas. Parce que je ne le vois pas dans les résultats.
Je pense que la question n'est pas juste, parce que je pense que M. Peart était assez clair. Dans les journaux, dans les questions, je pense qu'il a répondu à beaucoup d'emails de vous. Et c'est sûr, quand on fait des choses comme ça, c'est pour la sécurité des enfants tout le temps. Quand on refait une rue, c'est la rue Lexington, les gens qui étaient sur la rue Lexington n'étaient pas contents, mais ça, c'était pour la sécurité des enfants et des gens qui marchent là-bas.
Je ne remets pas en cause Lexington et Sunnyside. Ce que je remets en cause, c'est qu'il n'y a toujours rien de fait sur avenue Westmount autour des écoles. Et ça ne coûte pas cher de mettre des bandes blanches.
Ça, on peut
ça fait quoi? Ça fait maintenant 1 an, 2 ans que je viens ici et que je vous en parle?
OK, on va garder... Ça, c'est facile. Mme Bostock va prendre ça au comité de trafic. Monsieur Peart, est-ce que vous voulez répondre à ça? Mais c'est à vous.
Ouais. Bonsoir, merci. Je vais débuter, parce que juste moi aussi, je peux prendre par vos commentaires, d'être pas concerné avec la sécurité des enfants. Moi, les matins, chaque matin, je suis là avec ma petite à 5 ans, dans le quartier, soit à pied ou sur l'autobus pour l'amener à l'école. La sécurité des enfants, c'est comme tout le monde ici dans la pièce, c'est it's a given. It's a given. Je ne peux pas commenter en termes de ce que vous pensez que je cache, parce que je ne sais pas c'est quoi que je pourrais cacher, mais je pense que il faut comprendre que nous autres, comme conseillers, c'est une job qu'on fait à temps partiel. On se réunit deux fois par mois, puis on se parle, puis on prend des décisions. J'ai pas de bureau ici. Comme une grande majorité de mes collègues sur le conseil, on a un full-time job ailleurs. C'est pas nous autres qui donnent les contrats. Nous autres, on a une petite réunion à chaque 2 semaines, puis on fait go, no go, next step. Qu'est-ce qu'on fait? Dans le mois de mars ou avril, nous autres, comme conseil, on a posé une question à l'administration. Est-ce que c'est possible? Les autres, les experts qui travaillent pour l'administration, ils ont débuté une démarche pour voir ce qui est possible. Eux autres,
Ça a été fait début avril, donc c'était préparé avant.
Ouais.
Et ce qui a été demandé à WSP, c'était uniquement par rapport à la fermeture du triangle. Donc il y avait
je vais aborder
On va répondre, puis après ça, on va passer à l'autre champ.
Nous autres, on a posé la question à l'administration. C'était pas une question, c'était juste une question pour voir ce qui est possible. C'est l'administration que, même avec leurs capacités, leurs habitudes, leurs expériences, ils ont fait leur démarche pour voir ce qui est possible. Mais pour valider, pour voir ce qui est vraiment possible, c'est l'administration qui a mandaté la firme WSP pour faire l'analyse à profondeur. C'est pas le conseil qui a demandé pour une expertise de WSP. C'est l'administration. C'est pas pour mettre la responsabilité sur l'administration. Nous autres, on leur félicite, on leur appuie parce que les autres, ils savaient pas, ils ne voulaient pas constater uniquement par eux autres pour voir, alors c'est valide. Eux autres, ils ont fait une bonne démarche pour mandater une firme spécialisée dans ça, dans le génie, pour nous revenir avec une solution. Même au temps de la première consultation de conseil, on n'était même pas au courant que cette démarche était lancée. Alors, c'est pas nous autres qui a demandé pour ça. C'est l'administration qui a fait leur démarche pour voir ce qui est possible. Puis c'est l'administration qui nous a revenu avec cette proposition-là.
Donc, merci beaucoup, M. Peart. On va passer à la prochaine question.
Je vais faire un dernier petit commentaire sur la sécurité du triangle. Donc, depuis un mois, j'ai passé environ plus de 15 minutes au ralenti sur NDG pour tourner sur Clermont, à un passage où je suis obligé de passer, je n'ai pas d'autre alternative si je viens de la 15 Nord, si je viens de Montclan de village. Donc là, il y a un côté écologique qui est absolument zéro. J'en suis à me demander si je ne vais pas prendre la piste cyclable pour pouvoir tourner à droite dans Clermont, ce qui va me permettre d'économiser 15 minutes. Okay. Et effectivement, comme les autres, on le voit, les gens, une fois qu'ils s'arrêtent au stop, pour ceux qui s'arrêtent, ils tournent à gauche sur Westmount. Il y a le passage clouté, le passage piéton après, sur lequel il n'y a plus de stop, et où les gens passent probablement à 40 ou 50 km/h, alors qu'avant, il y avait un stop. Et ça, c'est quelque chose, moi aussi, je vous demande d'arrêter ce projet pilote immédiatement.
Merci.
Merci.
Prochaine question. Next question.
Hello, my name is Jacob Meltzer. I'd like to thank you guys for being here to receive our questions, first of all. Thank you very much. And my question is also regarding the Claremont Triangle project. And so I spoke with Mr. Peart a couple of weeks ago regarding this project, and he tried to convince me that safety was the main driver of this project. Despite this, he was not able to articulate a single new feature of the intersection that increases safety. Not a single one. I was and am not satisfied by his response, seen as how clearly 4 intersections have become less safe due to the changes that have occurred. So I would like to direct my question to the other members, to the other councillors, sorry, so that they can give me a hopefully more convincing response. Can anyone point to a safety benefit that has come from the changes made to the intersection?
So I think what that was, thank you for your question. Thank you for taking the time to come tonight. And what was probably indicated by you, or to you, by Councillor Peart, is that in this pilot project, we don't have as much space. Obviously, we're constricted by the built road at this point. But it is to test out different hypotheses. If it doesn't work, it will not. We're not going to continue with this if it doesn't work. And we hear you. There seems to be this notion that we're not hearing you, but it's been a few weeks. We are going to continue with the pilot project, and we will look at the designs. But see, whenever we rebuild a road in Westmount, in the past, it's certainly in this mandate and in mandates before, safety is the driving factor of how people, walk on site. When we make the investment, which we're making a big investment when we completely redo a road, we will look at everything. We will look at every crosswalk, every intersection, the widths of sidewalks, the direction, the parking. Can it have a bike path? Where will the bump outs go? How do we minimize risk to pedestrians crossing? Are they raised crosswalks? All of that, it becomes a blank slate because we have to build, we're not going to do this again. Claremont's going to get built, and then none of us will be making any decisions about rebuilding Claremont again. So we want to get it right. We want to look at all the options. And if the pilot project, this was a temporary pilot project, if it doesn't work, it's not going to be integrated. And from what I'm hearing from you is the people in the neighborhood don't really like it.
I think that's probably accurate.
But what we are looking at are there ways there's a lot of students that cross there, obviously, and there's a lot of students that are walking to Roslyn and other schools. Does this increase pedestrian access and things like that? But we will work with engineers. We will have another public consultation with you. This is part of a pilot project. This is not a permanent decision. So I hope that you can trust that process. I hope that you come on the 25th, and I hope that everybody in the room has filled out the survey. So thank you for your question.
Well, I'd actually just like to follow up on that because I'm not sure if you actually answered my question fully, because I'm wondering if you guys had any safety features beforehand that you saw would be improved by it. Did you anticipate? Did you see something that you hoped
There had been feedback, certainly from the school, and there's been a lot of discussions with the school over this, feedback about the crossing of the students, and was there a way to keep that, to eliminate, any car intersection, and so that's, one of the driving forces behind it. There have been those discussions, yes.
I'm sorry, I don't actually completely understand what you're saying by that, because the people are still crossing the street, and it seems like it's much more dangerous for those crossing now still.
Okay, that's good feedback, but it's eliminating the second crossing. But it is, again, I think I've made it clear. It's a pilot project, and we are glad that you have taken the time to give your feedback.
To me, you have not made it clear, and I'm just going to let you know that I'm not satisfied with your response.
Thank you. Next question. There's a whole lineup behind you, and so we have to get to the next question because you've asked your two questions.
Actually, that was in regard to the first one. I still don't feel you've answered it. I have a second question. Am I allowed to ask it?
You've asked two questions already.
Same question.
And you're over your time limit, and there's a huge lineup behind you.
Okay, well, I'm very disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. My name is Aiden, and this is about the Triangle Project as well. Last month, you said that the evaluation was done on the intersection. The evaluation is given a grade letter by the engineering company.
When you say you, are you referring to me or to Councillor Peart?
Peart, sorry. He was the one who indicated that last time. And I was just wondering, is that the only intersection that is getting graded, or is Westmount Avenue and Claremont getting graded? Is the intersection that was closed off getting graded? And also, Roslyn and Grosvenor and Westmount Avenue, there is more traffic and there are more cars speeding there as well. So is that getting graded too? Because there are other corners that are negatively affected by this one corner being changed?
Do you want to answer
Yeah,
that?
I can answer that. The scope of the engineering study was limited to the triangle. I think, if I don't have it in front of me, but I believe they specifically said that they're not looking for impact downstream. They're not doing traffic counts downstream. They're doing the traffic counts at the three intersections.
Okay. And I have a second question. I've seen many cars driving past on crosswalks while there are students and people walking on the crosswalks. And I've seen that happen with a Westmount security officer nearby who could have witnessed that. And I don't see any tickets being given out to people who are driving through a crosswalk while pedestrians are on the crosswalk. Is this something that you guys are trying to enforce?
Yeah, and so just so you know, Westmount Public Security cannot give a moving violation. That would be the SPVM that has to give that. Do you want to add anything? Add anything to that?
Are you guys talking with the SPVM and asking them to
Yes.
enforce this more? Because it keeps happening and people are getting more frustrated. And I don't see tickets being handed out for that.
They are handing out tickets, and it's not just at that intersection where people are going through crosswalks. The reality is that driving in general, people are not necessarily abiding to the rules.
Right.
But we are working with public security. We have a lot of presence there, not just for this project, but because it's school zones. We have, 13 schools in Westmount? So we're very aware of the importance of the safety of every kid in this community, whether they are in elementary school, high school, and CEGEP. But we work very closely with the SPVM all the time to ensure the safety and the huge number of tickets that are given out in Westmount for moving violations.
Okay, thank
So
you.
thank you for your question. Thank you for coming.
Hello, my name's Shona. I live on Claremont as well. I'm listening to some of the things that you're saying tonight. A bit of a process question, because I've heard that the administration wasn't responsible for the council wasn't responsible for the study to close NDG Avenue, that it
No,
was
I don't
the
think that's-
administration?
No.
Mr. Pert?
You want to clarify that?
Sorry. With the provincial regulations on giving of awarding of contracts, there is a minimum dollar value after which it needs to go through council for approval. Below that dollar value, it's within the purview of the administration to independently go out and award contracts. That fell because of the dollar value that was previously mentioned. This contract did not go through council for award.
So it was the administration who issued that contract. Is that correct?
It was
It was not voted upon by council.
Okay. And so that was the 49,000 for volet 1. But there was also volet 2 et volet 3. Les 3 volets, qu'est-ce que c'était le prix des 3 volets?
We will get back to you on that, on the exact price
Because
of that.
le prix des 3 volets, ça risque de dépasser 49 000, en tout cas. Thank you for offering to get back. So I just wanted to clarify that. But my question is, so thank you, Mayor Smith. You advised on the August 5th meeting that the Claremont Triangle project has a very short window for construction. And that very short window for the construction project is an issue. However, nobody should be left with the impression that if the pilot doesn't go through, there would not be a reconstruction of Claremont. So you confirmed 3 times that Claremont would be reconstructed, even if the pilot does not go through. So my question to you, and I genuinely don't understand how voting goes, I'm not sure what votes are left for the reconstruction project, if any, I have no idea. But could you confirm that any vote associated with the reconstruction of Claremont will be separate from any vote associated with whether the pilot should be permanent or the road should be reopened? Are they separate votes?
Well, so they're not, we'll, as you'll see in the September 25th meeting, they'll discuss different options. They'll ask for feedback in the public consultation. The vote for Claremont that will happen will be the awarding of the contract. So when we go out to tender, we'll get submissions, and that will all be based on whatever design has been decided upon. And then council will vote on that. And in the past, if a councillor has not been in favor of a project or the design or any number of things, they have voted against the awarding of that contract.
Oh, so there's one vote that will include the reconstruction of Claremont and the pilot? Is that what I'm understanding?
No, there will be a vote for awarding of the contract for the reconstruction of Claremont that will be based on the design that is chosen.
Okay, so if there's a vote for the reconstruction of Claremont and the pilot does not go forward, then it just remains the status quo ante.
No, it could be when we award the contract, it is based on a design that could have bump outs where there's no bump outs currently. It could have the triangle in its current state. I mean, that's a very possible scenario as well. And keeping two-way traffic on the section, the smaller section, the section that you live on. It could have any number of options, and that will be all in the design of the project. That is what council will vote on in a public way. We will discuss this in public with you at public consultations. We will continue to have any conversations you want to have about it. But eventually, once the contract is awarded, any significant changes, you cannot make significant changes to that contract anymore without going back out to tender because, well, you know better than anyone.
Sure, which would be fine. If it takes the time that it takes to assess the pilot and how dangerous it is, and Councillor Aronson, glad to hear about your role on the Environmental Committee, how polluting it is to have traffic backed up to Jouard. If it is a separate vote, and I believe it's a separate project. It was a separate project because we didn't hear about it until July 18th. And it was even a separate project on your website for some period of time. And then all of a sudden, they were merged as one project. And for the record, if it's not included in the construction of the reconstruction of Claremont, I think you'd see a lot of Westmount citizens breathe a sigh of relief to know that this dangerous situation is not going to continue. And I appreciate you saying, why are we not thinking that you're listening to us? It's because 4 months is a long time to watch pedestrians and bicyclists cross through 6 dangerous crosswalks, one where a stop sign has been removed, and you are in the crosswalk, which apparently now is half, because the other half cars can still go through. This is an intolerable, dangerous situation for which you are responsible. And to separate the two projects would seem like a sensible thing to do. That was actually only one question, believe it or not.
Okay.
One more question. On September 25th...
I think the Director General wants to respond to you.
Thank you.
Following up on your first question for the 3 phases, I thought you were mentioning the Claremont reconstruction, but the 3 phases you were talking about was
the
for
engineering
WSP.
Study.
Yeah,
yes.
The 49,000 includes the 3 phases.
So that would be great if you could share that information, because that's not how it actually reads, but I can take that up with you later to get the information on the pricing for tous les 3 volets.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
the next question is about the September 25th consultation.
We're on 3 questions
and we will have various alternatives presented to us by your experts. Will we have the opportunity to present our alternatives? Because as I've mentioned in the past in meetings with you, Mayor Smith, we are experts too. We sit and we watch these dangerous crosswalks and these dangerous intersections day in and day out. And we have alternatives to propose as well. Will we have an opportunity to present alternatives at that consultation meeting?
Certainly, yeah, you'll have every opportunity to raise your concerns, and it'll be a meeting dedicated entirely to the reconstruction of Claremont. So it's a perfect time to do it. And we look forward to seeing you there.
Just a second, that meeting is about the reconstruction of Claremont or the pilot project? Which one?
It's all, the pilot project is a precursor to the reconstruction of Claremont. The pilot project is because we would not, this is part of the reconstruction plan of Claremont. That's why we're doing it, because we're rebuilding the road.
As of July 18th. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Councilors. John Fretz.
Welcome.
I would like to pick up on the previous meeting. Rory Courier wanted to know what are the real cost benefits. We've only, I think, had general statements to that effect of the new garbage removal system. How much are we really going to save, and how much landfill are we really going to save? I mean, we haven't had anything other than kind of generalities from, and I think you said you told Mr. Courier that you were going to get back to him on his questions. So I'm curious, what are the answers?
So what we know we need to do in the city of Westmount, we have an abysmally low participation rate in composting. We have a high participation rate in landfill. And by reducing, like many, many cities have done, reducing it to every 2 weeks in the winter, we are hoping that that will help those who are not participating in the compost program, which there are many, and I'm often shocked when I speak to them that they're like, well, why would I compost? You guys pick up my garbage, recycling, and compost that's all in my black bin all together once a week, and I don't have to sort it or do anything like that. So Mr. Cuquier was asking a very specific question about what would the cost be. He was talking about $35. That is, not an accurate portrayal. When we go out to tender and we look at these things and we plan them, and it is part of our core business, landfill pickup, recycling pickup, compost pickup, we have seen massive, massive increases over the past couple of years in comparing with other cities of our size that pick up in a similar way. We knew that the costs were going to skyrocket. We knew that there was huge issues when we transferred from the last time because we'd had a contractor for decades, and then the lowest conforming bidder was Derrisburg. When Derrisburg took over the contract, there was no, about 20% of the houses had this sort of valet service of landfill behind their house, but there was no standard. There was no bin that had to be in a certain place at a certain number of meters. It's very, very difficult to write that into a contract in this day and age when there was no standard for it. I think that we have been a leader on issues like this in the past, on environment, on this type of thing, and we can be as well again now. So I can't give you an exact dollar amount because we don't, nobody bid on that contract, and that if you were asking for it to go back to once a week or to have the valet service for some homes, which was only for landfill pickup, right? It wasn't, you didn't get that for recycling because that was a newer contract. They didn't build that into the contract at the time. So I can't give you a precise number. But we know that the costs for landfill pickup are significantly higher, and there's been changes to it. There's innovation changes how we pick up garbage. Many cities, you have to use a standard bin. Nobody will pick up a can. It goes onto the back of the truck on a machine, and that's how it's picked up. So, there will be continually changes that come to how we manage our waste here. So that's a long answer to a short question.
Well, it's a very nice answer. It still doesn't say how you will determine whether it's cost effective. I mean, when will you know, like, yes, this is a success, or
well, it's always going to cost us to pick up. There's a service that we provide to citizens, so it's always a cost. But it's what we hope to see is a significant increase in composting, because that we will continue to pick up once a week. That needs to be done. And for those that don't compost, and Mr. Fretz, I'm quite certain that you compost. For those that don't compost,
have you come out and have a look? Yeah. No.
Once you start, you will never go back, ever. It will be repulsive to put eggshells in a garbage can. If.
Thank you. Thanks.
Anyways, yeah.
Mr. Fretz, there's one. It doesn't address your point directly, but what we did notice was, because first of all, when we do a garbage contract, it's a 3-year contract with 2 years of 2 annual years of renewals, which means a contract could last as long as 5 years. So we had come to the end of that 5-year contract, and we were starting up a new 3-year contract with, again, another 2 years of renewal. So right now we're in year 1 of potentially year 5, but definitely year 3. And we had, and as the mayor said before, we were anticipating at this new contract that there would be really large increases, because that's what other municipalities had experienced. When the contract came in, because we had switched to a bi-weekly pickup for half of the year, the contract came in at more or less the same price. So we didn't save money in a way, but we avoided a large increase. So it's not quantifiable because we can't validate the counterfactuals and know what it would have been to have had the weekly pickup. But the fact that it stayed roughly kif is an indication that that there was a cost savings.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Jewel Lowenstein, 790 Lexington.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And I'll just note that after the lineups that's there, we'll have to cut off question period at that point because we're already over. So whoever's in line, you can stay in line. Mrs. Lowenstein, sorry, go on.
So my first question is related to the beautification and reconfiguring of Lexington. We've had a year of what I call the prairie look, the Manitoba grasses look, and I didn't come before during the summer. I waited to the end to see what the development of the plantings would be, but frankly, I'm very disappointed. And I know that the city can do a better job because I see beautiful plantings on the corners of Roslyn and the Boulevard and Westmount Avenue, etc. I also know that the space allotted for this narrowing of Lexington created a make-work expensive project, which we predicted. But I would like to suggest that for next year, if you're going to put in annuals, at least let's not have the tall grasses, which in my opinion, some grasses are okay, and certainly I respect perennials, but I believe in keeping with the stately homes on the street, it should have a little more sophistication and relate to the rest of Westmount.
Okay, so thank you
Sorry.
for your suggestion. And as you know, they are sort of building some of the perennials there, but we can certainly look at if there's anything we can add or how we can improve that. And now would be the time we can talk to the gardening team that works on that.
Thank
So
you.
thank
I
you.
mean, the weeds outweigh the plantings, in my opinion, or it's hard to distinguish between the weeds and the plants. However, my next thing, I understand that at the corner of Devon and Lexington, there's land that the Oratoire has acquired that Westmount only has, I don't even know exactly how many inches in from the sidewalk is public property. But in June 2022, I wrote to my city councilor, who's always sympathetic and definitely attentive, that I suggested a fence be erected on that corner to keep the fall leaves that blow by the millions onto my property and my neighbor's property from coming onto my property. I was told that the suggestion had to be brought to City Council because it would require a certain amount of money, I guess. And I'd like to suggest that if possible, council looks into putting up a fence on that triangular corner, and hopefully there's a space that is city property and would keep the leaves from blowing all over the place.
Okay.
And
I I will ask urban planning to look at that
Thank you.
area.
And the last thing is, I was told, and I did send a letter to request that leaf blowing in the summer should not be discontinued. In my opinion, the noise of the new, smaller leaf blowers is the same as the noise of the lawn mowers. And it's very hard to get the people who clean, or so-called gardeners that we pay, to rake the leaves, because they're just not going to do it. It takes too much time. So I'm wondering if that law could be reconsidered.
So I don't relish reopening the leaf blower debate, but certainly it's something that one of the councillors has raised on council, that if we move to all electric, which we have, and they are typically quieter, and it could be an incentive, as you know, a give and take, and that perhaps it's not then all done at once, it's spread out. But that's something that we will have to discuss, because currently the bylaw state has the dates on it, which we know that people break the rule all the time as well. So thank you for your questions, and now that the leaves are falling, we will inevitably be discussing leaf blowers again. So thank you for taking the time. Next question.
Hello, my name is Shalini Bell. I live on Sherbrooke, close to Westmount Park. I'm also a parent who for the past 4 years has been on the governing board of Westmount Park Elementary School, and I'm a candidate for EMSB Commissioner in Ward 10 that includes Westmount.
Welcome.
Thank you. My question today is on behalf of the teachers and staff at Westmount Park. We're a large school. There are about 700 students and 100 staff, many of whom are not Westmount residents. There's not enough parking to accommodate them, and they can't leave their class to go move their car. So many of our teachers get tickets because they are just serving their classroom and not leaving our children. My question is, would it be possible for them to request and pay for a resident permit so that they're not ticketed during their workday?
So thank you for the question. Also, congratulations on running for school board commissioner, and the date of the election is November 3rd. So I hope, it's always disappointing when we have a low voter turnout, but I hope that people come out in large numbers.
Yeah, I have voter registration forms here if anyone is interested.
But this is an issue that we have dealt with in the past, because we have 13 schools, right? And we also have 2 CHSLDs and two seniors residences that have a significant number of staff as well that have to move their cars that don't. And so the sheer numbers of that. And during COVID, we gave a pass to teachers and people who worked as caregivers. And it worked for a little bit. It didn't, there's a lot of pushback from the people who live around the schools, especially like Westmount Park School. A lot of those people don't actually have driveways. So they're dependent on either an overturning of parking spots. So it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one to solve because there's a finite number of parking spots and we have so many schools. So if you have 100 staff at Westmount Park, like multiply that. I don't know if we can come up with a creative way. I'd happily look into it. Luckily, Westmount Park is well served by public transit. Some of the other schools are less well served by public transit, so it does make it trickier. But it's the sheer number and the availability around the schools, especially if they're in a commercial closer to the commercial areas. We need those parking spots to also overturn. But I don't know if anyone else has any good. But it's an issue we could try and discuss as well. But I wouldn't just do it for. I think caregivers also within the CHSLDs have a similar challenge as well.
Yeah. So if there were a process that the parents of the school could write a petition or anything we could do to advocate for this, please.
Yeah.
I'd like to start a conversation about it.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hi, Paula Ingalls.
Welcome.
Thank you. My question came out of a letter to the editor from September 3rd. entitled Statement from Save Summit Woods. And in this letter, it is asserted that without our perseverance, it is clear that the city would never have undertaken this work this year regarding work at the Summit Woods. And they proudly declare their ownership of this improvement, and it is their dedication to the preservation of Summit Woods that has catalyzed these actions. So, my question will come in a second. I was on this Summit Woods Advisory Committee for many years, and I remember Cynthia Lulham working tirelessly with the province, with her counterparts in Montreal, trying to get money to do a lot of work at Summit Woods. And I was very happy to see that in the budget last December, way before this campaign to rid the woods of dogs began, that it was in the budget. And this was like phase 3. So the first phase was closing the Summit Circle Road. The second phase was planting all those trees on that road. And this is the third phase, which was planned way in advance. So I just wanted to know if you're going to set the record straight so that people understand once and for all that this was not something that was, it's not as if, I mean, like, do they really think that a city works this way? That you just, somebody complains and a huge budget gets...
I can't, I don't typically comment on the letters to the editor section of the paper. Even the editor himself has called it not the facts section of the paper. But what I can say is that, yes, last December in our budget, in the budget speech, I think, addressed by Councillor D'Amico, addressed by Councillor Peart, and myself in the budget speech, we had committed funds to Summit Woods at the time. And I know there's a lot of dedicated people who feel very, very passionately about the preservation of Summit Woods, as does Council, and that is why that was part of our budget from last year. So thank you. I think Councillor D'Amico has something to say.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to object to the getting rid of dogs in Summit Woods. That's not the debate. The debate is the dogs have to be on leash at all times. I consulted, so in our profession, if we don't have an answer, we consult an expert in the field. I consulted the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. I did a post-implementation due diligence. I just want to clarify this point.
I understand.
The post-implementation due diligence very clearly stated that the Director General should provide proof that our insurance policy will cover us if there is an incident in Summit Woods. And secondly, that the legal opinion that Council relied on to make that decision be confirmed by the legal counsel. That's all I said. I never wanted to ban dogs at Summit Woods. It's dogs off leash. It's very clear. And also, I object. To once you said that you represent the Westmount Dog Owners Association.
Councillor D'Amico,
I looked online. This organization is an ad hoc organization. So please state that you represent yourself and that you don't represent dog owners, of which I am one, and you don't represent me. Is that clear?
Okay. So
first of all, I wasn't directing this at all to you. And I wasn't...
I think I answered the question in terms of the budget allocation was there last December. So thank you for raising the question. And we've had a lot of positive feedback about the work that was done up at the summit in terms of the entrances and blocking off some of the paths. And from what I see up there, there is a very genuine commitment of everybody that's walking up there to ensure people's safety, but also enjoyment of the woods. So thank you for raising it. Thank you for clarifying it.
Okay, well, the only thing is what I would like to know is if maybe you would write something in the Westmount Independent to clarify it so that people don't think that it was this group that caused this to happen.
So we can't. I mean, I don't typically respond to every letter because there's several of them.
You don't have to respond to the letter, but you could just say how it came about.
This certainly came about because it was a needed investment in Summit Woods that we made that very firm commitment to. There's nothing more concrete than a vote on what the budget is going to be for the year. And this was very clearly planned within our budget last December, which meant that the planning for that began in June of last year. So, and we'll continue to invest in Summit Woods.
Okay,
Thank you.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Mariam Kamoli-Nejad, Summit Circle. Justement, j'ai deux questions. Première question, j'aimerais avoir une mise à jour de deux lettres qui étaient demandées par notre représentant de district numéro 1. Un par rapport au en fait, l'imputabilité versus les accidents et l'assurance pour les chiens sans laisse au Summit Woods. Et le deuxième lettre, c'était pour l'avis juridique que la ville a utilisé comme manette pour changer la définition de Summit Woods au Dog Park.
On n'a pas changé le nom à Summit Woods and Dog Park. Et la première question, c'était...
Indexé dans le tableau de la loi 1522-1.
Je pense que j'ai déjà répondu à cette question beaucoup de fois.
Juste pour dire qu'il est annexé dans les listes de parcs à chiens.
Et l'autre question, c'était que vous voulez la liste des infractions.
Je n'ai pas compris la réponse première. En fait, notre conseiller a demandé...
J'ai déjà répondu à cette question. Les règles n'ont pas changé.
Non, je n'ai pas parlé de règles. Je vais répéter ma question alors. J'aimerais avoir une mise à jour par rapport aux présentations de deux lettres demandées en mois de mai et juin.
Les lettres que vous avez envoyées à moi?
Non. En fait, vous avez dit que vous avez un avis juridique sur lequel le Conseil s'est basé pour changer la définition de Summit Woods. Le conseiller numéro 1, district numéro 1, a demandé une preuve écrite. Donc, on aimerait avoir la mise à jour. Est-ce que la lettre est disponible ou pas?
Ça?
OK.
Non.
Madame la mairesse, donc...
Monsieur Demico,
oui.
Et l'autre
question, c'était par rapport à l'assurance et la réponse de l'assurance par rapport au...
Oui, et ça, c'était clair. On va vous répondre en écrit, OK? Merci. On va vous répondre en écrit.
En écrit.
Je pense que c'est mieux comme ça parce que c'est plus facile. On va répondre en écrit. C'est bon? Merci.
Oui, j'avais deux questions.
Ça c'était vos deux questions, non?
Non, c'était... Première question.
Okay.
Deuxième question, c'est qu'en mois de juillet, il est arrivé 2 accidents à Summit Woods et c'est moi qui ai appelé directement la sécurité publique. Le 14 juillet et le 29 juillet. Les 2 accidents, c'était par rapport aux chiens qui n'habitent pas à Westmount. Un qui habite sur Plateau, l'autre qui habite à Outremont. Un sans médaille, ça veut dire qu'il n'a pas payé son $100. Et les 2 chiens étaient sans contrôle et sans leash pendant les horaires qu'il faut qu'ils soient en leash. Donc, 3 infractions en même temps. Et un d'entre eux, il était sur la propriété privée plus qu'un quart d'heure. Dans le premier accident, le 14 juillet, 3 agents de sécurité plus 3 véhicules ont été impliqués pendant plus qu'une heure, presque une heure. Et dans le deuxième, presque 30 minutes. 2 agents avec une auto. Est-ce que vous pensez que ça, c'est une utilisation de fonds publics optimisés?
Je pense qu'ils ont donné, j'imagine qu'ils ont donné des infractions et j'espère que ça continue pas comme ça avec...
J'ai fait une demande d'accès aux informations. Oui, effectivement, ils ont eu la contravention, mais le minimum dans la loi. Donc, au lieu de donner infraction adéquate pour 3 infractions, amende pour 3 infractions, ils ont juste eu, par gentillesse de nos agents, le minimum infraction. C'est juste pour vous dire que $100 que les 2 y ont payé pour l'année au complet, ça couvre
Merci
même
pour
pas
vos commentaires.
Un minimum de dépenses de la ville pour ces agents-là.
Merci pour vos commentaires.
Madame la mairesse.
Prochaine question.
Mayor, commissioners, staff.
Monsieur Demico, est-ce que vous voulez dire d'autres choses sur ce sujet?
Madame la mairesse, je pense que la sécurité publique des citoyens, je pense que c'est quelque chose de sérieux, puis je pense qu'on le devra prendre plus de sérieux. J'ai quand même contacté le ministère pour avoir une opinion d'un expert. L'opinion dit que la ville, Madame la directrice générale, vous devez donner une confirmation de notre assureur que s'il y a un accident au Boisé Summit. Je vous ai demandé au mois de mai, je vous le redemande encore une autre fois. Est-ce que vous avez la lettre de l'assureur que si quelque chose arrive, la ville va être couverte par notre assureur? Et deuxièmement, l'opinion juridique qui a été rendue par la firme légale, est-ce qu'elle peut le confirmer qu'elle est toujours en vigueur subséquemment à la jurisprudence qui a eu lieu? Est-ce que vous pouvez répondre à cette question?
Ça, c'est une période de questions pour les citoyens
pense
maintenant.
oui, mais je pense
M.
que
D'Amico, vous comprenez les règles.
Oui, mais l'ordre public, Madame la mairesse, Madame vient de vous dire qu'il y a des cas où les gens refusent de respecter la loi. Je pense que, Madame la mairesse, c'est urgent.
Monsieur D'Amico, ils étaient donnés des infractions. Je m'excuse, monsieur, c'est un...
Thank you.
Next question,
again,
please.
Mayor, commissioners, and staff. I came here with a different mission.
Sorry, can you just state your name, please?
Yes, my name is Jim Constantakos, and I live at 4894 Westmount Avenue, which is directly in front of the triangle. So I would like to express to you what I have been living here for the last 10 years. I moved into Westmount on this street. I lived for the last 20 years in Westmount, but I moved on this street about 10 years ago. When I moved on 4894, there was very little traffic. At 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, I used to be able to come out of my driveway. I would turn right on Victoria, and I was at my office in 15 minutes. A couple of years ago, hell started. You started by putting in the bicycle path. When you put the bicycle path, you shortened the lane on the right-hand side, and you made it into a single lane. So all the traffic that was coming from the west towards the east on Westmount, as soon as there was somebody turning left, like on Grosvenor, all of a sudden it backed up, because now there's traffic coming both ways. So in front of my driveway, I started not being able to come out. There was always some car coming in a hurry that prevented me from coming out. Now, with a new change you just made, you made the whole area a mess. What happens? The same phenomenon still exists. People turning left on Westmount Boulevard, on Grosvenor, back up the traffic all the way now to Claremont. I can't even come out of my driveway in the morning at 8:30. I can't come out of my driveway at 5:30 in the evening. So it's a horrible mess. I've heard a lot of people talk about safety. You have no idea how dangerous it is. You have the students coming out of Marianopolis. As they come out of Marianopolis, they turn down in Claremont. So they're heading south in Claremont, they have a stop, and the cars are coming parallel to them. So the students don't turn around to see the cars coming. They're looking front and they're looking left. And often I see close to having an accident. They come close to having an accident because the students just come down, they're talking to each other, not looking, and the cars are in a hurry because you've put them in a tight spot. Because you created a Venturi on that street as well, cutting both lanes into one to come down. So now all the drivers are frustrated. They've got road rage, and they're coming down, not even looking at the students. So it's just like a couple of people said, just a question of time you have an accident there too.
So do you have a specific question, or do you want, is it feedback?
Say again? Feedback.
Are you just giving me feedback?
Feedback. Now just have one question at the end of it.
Okay.
So this is the feedback, what I'm living, which you are maybe not living. Now, I'm living this, and all my neighbors from Claremont to Victoria on that same side, and perhaps to Grosvenor, are living the same thing because the traffic stops. It's a stalled. It's a parking lot now. Has never been a parking lot, Mayor. Now it's a parking lot. So I would like you to allow cars that want to continue straight on Westmount Avenue to be able to change lanes where the bicycle path is to go there. And I don't know if I can help you a bit. You know, everybody today wants to be on a bike. Everybody wants to be on the street. But what has happened, these roads were built for cars. They weren't built for bikes. And when I'm 76 years old now, but when I was 43, I went to China. And when I came back from Montreal, you know, I was listening to Radio-Canada, and the press said the two societies would clash, with China with all these bikes and Canada with cars. Well, guess what? Canada became with bikes, and China's still the way it was.
Let me just be clear of what your request is, that we remove the bike path on Westmount Avenue. I just want to be sure what you're asking.
Yes, I would like you to remove the bike path that causes this traffic, and the triangle has to go back to what it was.
Okay.
As a safety issue, but Okay, just 1 second. And my only question to you is, why are you doing this consultation work after you've done all this mess? When did you do that before? Ask the people if they want something like that, then proceed it without having spent any money. Yeah, you spend a bunch of money to find out that nobody wants it? This is a bit backwards, isn't it?
I think we had tried to explain this in the past, that the pilot project is a live consultation.
I understand, but why spend the money before doing the consultation?
This room is not appreciated.
Isn't it doing things backwards?
No, it's part of it's an active part of the consultation.
I understand, but don't you do the consultation first, explain what you want to do, then if people say they want it, then spend the money and do the work.
Okay, so thank you for your feedback.
Sorry, thank you. Have a good night.
We'll see you on the 25th. Next and second to last question.
Yes, Douglas Ashram, 4100 Dorchester.
Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. Is there anything can be done for perpetual permits that you have for people renovating? There are some renovations that have been going on now for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And I know the people, and I know what they're doing and why they're doing that. And then the other side you have a lot of vacant buildings, like the church on the corner of Atwater was a beautiful church. Now it's really a homeless place. It's vacant. I'm not sure what's inside. I know what's outside. I have pictures for you. There's people living outside.
Yeah, no,
So,
we've seen it. So that, I mean, do you want to talk about that specific property?
I'm just giving you basically comments on things I see.
Yeah, so there is a permit. So the council and the city has passed the permit for the church on the corner, we call it the St. Stephen's project. That is in the hands of the developer to move forward. And what we often see, which I think I know the properties that you're referring to, is that it becomes an extension, or there's one person working on the house, and the construction goes on and on forever. Or in other instances, there's a massive you see it up in your neighborhood up there. There's a couple of projects that are massive, but they're having a big impact on the neighborhood at the same time. So it's...
But that delays you evaluating them for higher taxes. I mean, that's what the person's doing. I know him.
I'm not going to comment on a specific
So, I mean, they delay,
case.
and this way you can't reevaluate their homes, and they keep delaying. You're talking 10, 15 years.
So we are looking at ways that we can improve we don't want people to stop doing work. We don't want to, block a permit. We want them to do the work. We want them to get going on the project. And at times they need extensions on that, so they have to apply for extensions. But if you have, I know you came to the Southeast public consultation, and that's a big issue down in that area. So I would encourage you to come back to the second one, because this is a major challenge in terms of just also building construction costs have increased dramatically, and that's affected a lot of people in their construction projects.
The other point I have is the stairs on Devon Park. You must have paid probably
the new stairs,
40,000, and I have pictures for you. They're worse situation now. That's a year away than they were before that.
Well,
so I
those
don't know
would
what
be
you
covered.
pay. But the problem here is when you give a permit out for construction, or you get a quote, somebody from construction team has to go back and take a look at what they did a year after or 2 years after. And the reason I say that is also because in Upper Belmont, which is my other house, we did the actual street, and there was a crack a couple of weeks after, and I mentioned it to somebody, and they didn't do anything about it. So
we'll definitely look at the stairs. They are very much still under
I'll give
warranty.
you pictures. I'll give you pictures.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
Really, the last thing I have is the homeless person that security feels was okay to have him undressed at the parking lots on Dorchester. So I'll give you the story, very short, which I think you'll find humorous. I saw this homeless person with a bike, and he was sitting at one of your parking lots right on Dorchester.
So just to be clear, I wouldn't ever find a situation with a homeless person humorous.
It's not, well, it's not humorous. What it comes down to is I informed your security people. They said basically the person was beaten up and they want a safe place for him. Agree, not a problem for me at all. Let him stay there for a week, okay? The following time, I saw him on the other side of the parking lot in his tent, okay? So you know my house on Dorchester. I spent a lot of time and effort on the house to bring it back to the heritage value. I asked the security what they were going to do about it, and they said they'll go and have a move. They called me back and said the person is staying on a bench, but there's no bench there. So they basically, I'm going to say, they told me a lie, saying there's a bench there when there's actually no bench there, okay? So after another few days, they decided to basically move him. He moved up to what's called Mount Pleasant. I saw him up there. So I think, you know, look, I have nothing against, and I told the person, I said, you know what, does he want to stay in a hotel? I'll pay for the hotel. And there's no issue with that. But to have a person stay there undressed in the parking lot, that's really not why I live in Westmount, okay? So somebody should talk to the security people about being transparent, because they weren't at that time, and basically put some rules around these things.
So this isn't obviously a simple answer that we would give
I
in
don't need
question
an answer.
period. We're working closely with the SPVM. There's obviously been an increase in this. This is no secret anywhere. Anywhere you go in Montreal, you can see an increase in homelessness. If you see an issue, I would encourage you to call the police, and they will ensure their safety. They will try and get them into a shelter. They will try and make sure that they're safe and that our citizens are safe, obviously.
You know, I feel sorry for them. I do. My last point is, in 1960, the city council, similar to you, tore down 160 homes on the north side of Dorchester. A lot of them were heritage homes. A lot of them were very important. I have pictures. It's in your heritage pamphlet. I'm just hoping this new phase that we're doing on the south side of Westmount doesn't go and do something that we'll all regret. Okay, and really having a building 111 Atwater, to me, is an eyesore. Yeah, I know we need to have it, but I'm hoping that you don't do the same across the street from me.
Okay, thank you for your feedback.
Thank you.
Final question. Bonsoir à tous.
Bonsoir.
Mon nom est Martin Patterson. J'habite sur Claremont depuis 25 ans. Pas de cachette. Je suis un papa, comme vous, ou maman. Je suis aussi grand-papa ou grand-maman, comme vous. Alors, quand on parle de sécurité des enfants, là, comme vous, je sais, comme vous, de quoi on parle. Mon background est en transport. On a eu jusqu'à 450 camions dans le transport. Donc, mon expérience est dans le transport par camion. Pas nécessairement des camions de vidange, pas nécessairement des camions de pompiers ou des ambulances, mais toute la logistique et la fluidité. Et dans le projet du triangle, je pense que c'est un élément qui a été complètement oublié, abandonné ou jamais analysé. Alors, plus on va avoir de problèmes de fluidité, bien, plus comme ce soir, on va sentir de la frustration. Parce que quand vous attendez, la première chose que vous faites, une fois que c'est relâché, c'est vous garrocher. Et ça, c'est pas bon pour la sécurité de personne. Pas bon pour mon antiquaire, ni la vôtre. Vous faites un travail difficile, j'en conviens, juste entendre tout ce qui se dit ici ce soir. C'est pas facile, le travail que vous faites. Mais je m'adresse à vous en tant que parent, grand-parent, comme vous l'êtes. Je pense que personne ici, sincèrement, qui est contre la sécurité. Mais de donner des billets ou des tickets, ça ne va rien faire. Ça va juste augmenter la frustration, comme le manque de fluidité et le manque de transparence augmente la frustration. J'ai assisté rapidement au mois d'avril ou mai, les consultations publiques. Jamais, au grand jamais, on a parlé de ce projet-là du triangle pour se faire réveiller 3 fois dans la même semaine avec des travaux d'urgence de nuit pour mettre cette horreur en vigueur. À ma connaissance, en 25 ans, il n'y a jamais eu d'accident, même mineur, sur ce secteur-là de Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, Claremont, Westmount. Et là, tout à coup, on en crée. Il a été témoin, pas plus tard que la semaine dernière, un camion de pompiers qui était incapable de virer à gauche. J'espère qu'elle n'était pas en urgence. Alors, tout ça pour dire, vous faites un travail délicat, pas facile, très diplomatiquement. J'essaie d'y aller avec énormément de tact, mais la sécurité, je pense que tout le monde a ça à cœur, et c'est en faisant attention à la fluidité du trafic. C'est pas en mettant des dos d'âne, des trous qu'on va régler ça. Quand le trafic est fluide, les gens respectent, ça avance, on est content. Quand c'est confituré, pour parler de ding et dong ou jamais, bien, les gens, ils sont frustrés, puis au bout de 15 minutes, on accélère et les accidents se produisent de cette façon-là. Donc, quand je parle de... pardon, je termine là-dessus. Quand je parle de frustration, bien, je suis également frustré, moi, de voir que toutes ces consultations-là, j'ai l'impression qu'on tourne en rond, là. Je ne me sens pas bien écouté ou sincère. Puis pourtant, je sais que vous l'êtes très attentif, mais en quelque part, il y a un élément qui manque. Là. De tout ce que j'entends ici ce soir, là, pardon, il y a comme un jeu là, qui fait juste augmenter la frustration. Est-ce qu'on ne pourrait pas la faire baisser un peu tout le monde ensemble, nous aussi comme citoyens, qu'on puisse sortir de chez nous, rentrer calmement, pas écraser les enfants. Je suis bien content d'acheter des chocolats et toutes sortes de choses qu'on vend à la maison, mais je n'ai pas de problème avec ça. Il y a eu 500 personnes qui ont signé une pétition. Je ne sais pas ce que ça a donné. Mon seul vœu, pour ne pas dire qu'un ordre ou une question, vous mettrez ça comme vous voulez, là, c'est voulez-vous cesser ce projet-là au plus sacrant, s'il vous plaît? Ça n'a pas d'allure. À tout égard, ce projet-là, il est laid, il n'a pas d'allure. Je pense qu'on peut le mettre sur pause et attendre de voir effectivement toutes les vraies consultations qu'il va y avoir, en pensant surtout fluidité, parce que fluidité, ça veut dire moins de frustration veut dire plus de sécurité. Et je termine là-dessus. Je vous remercie beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup pour vos commentaires. Non? OK, merci beaucoup. On va commencer avec... we're now going to start with the main agenda of the evening. So I'm going to move with the adoption of the agenda, item number 4. So for those of you who want to leave, you don't need to feel guilty about leaving at this point.
Sure, thanks.
I'll give you a moment before we start in the next... Unbelievable. OK, on va commencer avec l'adoption de l'ordre du jour. Councillor Chamy, number 4.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Je propose que l'ordre du jour de la séance ordinaire du Conseil du 9 septembre 2024 soit adopté.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par Madame Bostock. All in favor?
Here.
Thank you. Item number 5, approbation du procès-verbal.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Je propose que le procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du Conseil tenue le 5 août 2024 soit approuvé.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par Madame Bostock encore. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Reports to Council. Item 6.1, the following documents are tabled. Resolutions from various municipalities in connection with the request for support for the revision of the Act respecting municipal taxation for Sûreté du Québec taxes. Item 6.2 is again Councillor Chamy, minutes of the General Committee of Council.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Le procès-verbal de la rencontre du comité plénier du Conseil de 2 janvier 2024 est déposé et disponible sur le site Web de la Ville.
Merci beaucoup. 6.3, c'est le procès-verbal du comité consultatif sur les transports. Councillor Bostock.
The minutes of the Transportation Advisory Committee meetings held on March 26, 2024, April 16, May 14, and July 9 are tabled and are available on the city's website.
Thank you very much. Item 6.4, rapport de main-d'œuvre. Councillor Chamy.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Le rapport de la main-d'œuvre pour le mois de juillet 2024 est maintenant déposé.
Merci beaucoup. 6.5, le registre des paiements. Conseillère Demico.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Donc, la liste des paiements pour le mois de juillet 2024 est déposée.
Merci beaucoup. 6.6, la liste d'approbation en vertu du règlement 1507. C'est Councillor Chamy.
Conformément au règlement 1507 sur la délégation de pouvoir à certains employés de la Ville de Westmount, la liste d'autorisation de dépenses pour le mois de juillet 2024 est maintenant déposée.
Merci beaucoup. 6.7, c'est la liste de facturation des droits de mutation. Conseillère Demico.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The list of duties on transfers for the month of July 2024 are tabled.
Thank you very much. Item number 7 is orientation du Conseil sur les sujets devant être présentés au Conseil d'agglomération de Montréal. Councillor Chamy.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Je propose que la mairesse, ou en son absence, le maire suppléant, soit autorisé à prendre toute décision qu'elle jugera opportune à l'égard des sujets inscrits à l'ordre du jour de la séance de Conseil d'agglomération de Montréal devant se tenir le 19 septembre 2024, et ce, dans les meilleurs intérêts de la ville de Westmount et de ses résidents.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par M. Aronson. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number 8, Community Grant, the SWAT Hockey Team Charity Tournament Association. Councillor Gallery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will read the whereases. Whereas the SWAT Hockey Team Charity Tournament Association, otherwise known as SWAT, is an association constituted under the Civil Code of Quebec. Whereas SWAT is an associated ice hockey team that plays games every week during the winter season at the Westmount Recreation Center's arena. Whereas SWAT organizes an annual hockey tournament during the first week of December. Whereas SWAT has been donating time and resources since 1985 to raise funds for the Saint-Justine Hospital and Montreal Children's Hospital Foundations, more specifically to finance the purchase of state-of-the-art neurosurgical equipment and the pediatric brain cancer research. Whereas the funds raised by SWAT come in part from donations collected during weekly ice hockey games and the annual tournament. Whereas under the Municipal Powers Act, the town may grant assistance to SWAT. I move, Madam Mayor, that the city grant assistance to the SWAT Hockey Team Charity Tournament Association by renting free of charge the ice of the arena at the Westmount Recreation Center for 70 minutes per week for 28 weeks per season, September to April, 19 hours divided by Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of the first week of December for the annual tournament. That this assistance be granted for the 2024-25, 25-26, and the 2026-27 seasons. That the assistance be subjected to the signing of an agreement between the city and the association. That the agreement include the obligation for the association to report annually on the amounts paid to the various foundations. That this assistance be subject to the association remaining a non-profit organization. And finally, that the city clerk be authorized to sign an agreement with the SWAT Hockey Team Charity Tournament Association.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Shammy. Do you want me to comment further? Sure. So thank you for that. SWAT has been going on in our city for a very long time and raises funds specifically for neuro research for children in honor of a young son of Westmount who died of brain cancer. And so that is where the tradition of SWAT began. And so this has been going on for years and years, and this is the agreement for the next 3 years going forward. So, and their tournament is at the beginning of December, and I encourage anyone who can to go and participate in it if you want, or support it through their auction or the various events that they have going on in it. And our sports and rec department give them a lot of assistance and help in this tournament, which is really a very important part of their fundraising efforts. So, seconded by Councillor Shammy. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number 9, request for proposals, acquisition of Microsoft SQL database licenses, DDP 2024-028. Is Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $23,592 even, including tax credits, for the acquisition of Microsoft SQL database licenses, request for proposal number DDP 2024-28, to award to CareTech the contract for this purpose in accordance with its proposal for a maximum amount of $27,124.90, including taxes, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the request for proposals DDP 2024-28. And finally, Madam Mayor, to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2024-2355.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Peart. Any further comments? No? No? Carried. All in favor, seconded by Councillor Peart. Item number 10, call for public tenders, professional services for the restoration of the Roslyn Staircase in the city of Westmount, PUB 2024-021. Councillor Peart.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $122,491.02, including tax credits, for professional services for the restoration of the Roslyn Staircase in the city of Westmount, public tender number PUB-2024-021, to award to FNX Innov Inc., the contract for this purpose at its bid price for a maximum amount of $134,143.63, including taxes, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the public call for tenders, PUB-2024-021, to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2024-2343.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. Any further comments on this one?
As I mentioned in the opening reports, that this is a long-awaited project, and this is the next step to get the consultants back on board so that we can execute in 2025.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Moving to item number 11, I think is where we... Item number 11, call for public tenders, purchase of 15 kV three-phase pad-mounted transformers, PUB 2024-036, is again Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $221,800 even, including tax credits for the purchase of a 15 kV three-phase pad-mounted transformer, public tender number PUB 2024-036, to award to Lumen, a division of Sonpar Canada Inc., the contract for this purpose at its bid price for a maximum amount of $255,014.55, including taxes, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the public call for tenders PUB 2024-036, and finally to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file 2024-2363.
Thank you very much. A seconder, Councillor Peart. Any further comments on that? Councillor Shammy? No? All in favor? Aye. Carried. Item number 12 is Councillor Bostock. Call for public tenders, rental of tractor loaders with operations for the City of Westmount, PUB 2023-041.
I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $60,630.28, including tax credits, for the rental of 5 tractor loaders with operators for the snow removal of streets, parking lots, and other public spaces of the City of Westmount for 2024-2025 winter season, public tender number PUB 2023-041, to award to Les Entreprises Ventec Inc. the contract for this purpose at its bid price for a maximum amount of $66,398.06, including taxes, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the call for public tenders PUB 2023-041, and to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor Gallery. Any further comments? This is preparation for snow loading.
I'm not ready. But
okay.
we'll be ready, but I'm not ready.
All in favor, seconded by Councillor Gallery. Item number 13, numéro 13, c'est appel d'offres public achat de 600 mètres de câbles 500 MCM de 3 conducteurs 15 kV XLPE. Councillor Peart.
OK. Je propose d'autoriser une dépense de $177 050 et 92 sous, incluant le crédit de taxe pour l'achat de 600 mètres de câbles 500 MCM de conducteurs 15 kV XLPE, appel d'offres public, numéro PUB 2024-044, d'accorder à Lumen, division de Sonpar Canada Inc., le contrat à cette fin au prix de sa soumission, soit pour une somme maximale de $193 893 et 84 sous, taxes incluses, le tout conformément aux documents contractuels de l'appel d'offres public PUB-2024-044. D'imputer cette dépense conformément aux informations financières inscrites au sommaire décisionnel numéro 2024-2365.
Merci beaucoup. Et c'est appuyé par Mme Bostock. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres commentaires? Do you have any comments on this?
Supplies for electrical cables.
All in favor? Aye. Carried. Item number 14, call for public tenders. Cancellation of the call for public tenders is Councillor Gallery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I again will read the whereases. Whereas on July 10th, 2024, a public tender opening was held for the collection and transportation of garden waste for the City of Westmount, tender number INV-2024-019, and minutes prepared by the City Clerk's Office are submitted to this meeting. Whereas after analyzing the opening bids, the Human Resources Department ruled that the collective agreement for blue-collar workers provides that the work covered by the call for tenders must be carried out exclusively by blue-collar workers. Therefore, I move that the two tenders submitted as a result of the call for tenders bearing number INV-2024-019 for the contract for the collection and transportation of garden waste for the City of Westmount be rejected on the basis that after verification by the Human Resources Department, the blue-collar collective agreement stipulates that the work covered by the call for tenders must be performed exclusively by blue-collar workers. That the call for tenders number INV 2024-019 for the collection and transportation of garden waste for the City of Westmount be cancelled. That the collection of garden waste continue to be done by the blue-collar workers.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Bostock. I think the whereases of that were fairly clear. All in favor? Carried. Item number 15, call for public tenders, cancellation of the call for public tenders. Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the two tenders submitted as a result of the calls for tender bearing number PUB 2024-37 for the contract to purchase a single-phase pad-mounted transformer be rejected on the basis that neither bidder was in compliance with the technical requirement specs, and that a new call for tender to be initiated at a later date.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor Peart. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Item number 16, modification of a contract, asphalt repairs on Dorchester Boulevard, eastbound. Councillor Peart had mentioned this earlier on, but so here's the motion. Councillor Peart.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I move that the contract awarded to les entreprises Ventec for asphalt repairs on eastbound Dorchester Boulevard, resolution number 2024-05-121, be modified and increased to a maximum amount of $2,766,315.75, including taxes, that an additional expenditure be authorized in the amount of $139,199.75, including tax, for said contract. To allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making files number 2024-2274 and 2024-2368.
Keep going. Sorry.
Oh, that's it.
That's it. A seconder on this will be Councillor Kez because she's very much into this project. All in favor? Carried. I mean, do you want to add any more details? This has been. They're also doing work on on Saturdays to address the backlog of this project.
It's also worth pointing out, I know there's a lot of, everybody gives us comments on the state of our roads in the city, and these are big numbers. $2.8 million for a relatively short segment of road in the city. Is this a
just to repave, not to rebuild?
It's a repave and
new
base
sidewalks.
Base repairs and sidewalks. This is not a reconstruction. The scope and the expense of our capital works is significant, and this is just one small snippet, and it becomes almost self-evident why we can't continue at this pace across the entire territory, because it's the numbers are very, very large. So I just use this as a small example because it's a segment I think we're all quite familiar with, and we can recognize that it's a relatively short segment of road for not a reconstruction.
Yep. So, but will be a welcome improvement in the area. So that was seconded by Councillor Kez. All in favor? Carried. Item number 17, tabling of the Planning Advisory Committee minutes is again Councillor Peart.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I move that Council acknowledge and accept the minutes of the regular Planning Advisory Committee, the PAC, meeting held on July 30th and August 1st of 2024.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. Number 18 is also Councillor Peart, approval of site planning and architectural integration programs.
Absolutely. I move that the...
Oh, yes. All in favor of the minutes. Thank you. That was seconded by Councillor Gallery. Apologies, item 18.
I move that the Municipal Council act on the recommendations of the Planning Advisory Committee, the PAC, as set out in the minutes of the regular meeting held on July 30th and August 1st of 2024, and approve with respect to each of them the plans and permit conditions attached to the items listed below, as assessed in accordance with the bylaw 1305 on site planning and architectural integration programs.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. There is a list in there, but if any, do you want to highlight anything on this list?
I'm not going to call attention to any of them, but I will note that I don't know if you've noticed, but in the past 2 or 3 agendas, this list is getting longer and longer. The PAC sessions we've had a number on the agenda that I've not seen in a very long time. But at the same time, we are clearing through the applications with a clearance rate that we haven't seen in a long, long time. So it's high volume, but the throughput has been increasing over the years. So this is a product of it, and this is welcome news for both the city and for the applicants.
Good news. Okay, thank you. So seconded by Councillor Gallery. All in favor? That brings us to new business, which I don't believe there is any new business to add to the agenda tonight. So we also have questions online that had been submitted online. If there are further questions in the room, we'll take those if you haven't already asked a question, and then we'll move to the online questions. I believe, Mr. Fretz, you've already asked a question. So
Just
maybe
when you get here, it takes a bit of time. I'm very happy, and of course, I'd like to know a little bit more about forestry engineer Monsieur Gagnon, who will be, we're just told, undertaking a study of trees. I think in the that will include Summit Woods.
What would you like to know about Mr. Gagnon?
Okay. Will that be made available to the public? Now, the other thing is, if it's possible, can you give us some information? I mean, it's nice to know the extent of the summit, of the study. Now, there used to be a forester called Luc Nadeau, and he used to do periodic...
he was an outside consultant.
That's right, yeah. And Mr. Gagnon has recently been brought in. He would include like his comments on the health of the forest. And so I'm wondering, would Mr. Gagnon be going this far in terms of talking about invasives? I mean, he said a study of trees. I mean, naturally, you're going to think about plants and invasives and all the rest of it. Will there be kind of a master plan?
He's doing an inventory of the trees.
Yeah. Well,
no, I can't comment exactly what the report will look like, but we can try and get you some of that information.
And an updated map of the trails.
And an updated map of the trails. So you're talking about just for Summit Woods, right?
Yeah.
So that, yes, all the information that we can share, we will certainly put up on our website.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi, I'm Jessica Winton. I have a few rapid-fire questions. One would be the upcoming bike plan as a part of Velo Quebec. I was wondering if it took into account the suggestion I had made. We're having level bike lanes on par with the sidewalk, particularly for avenues such as de Maisonneuve or the Boulevard, if you choose to go that way. So that way it opens up a bit more of pedestrian space, given that a bike lane along the boulevard might not be used nearly as much as somewhere like de Maisonneuve because of the hill that people would have to climb up.
So do you want to, I think Councillor Bostock wants to respond to that.
So the quick answer is yes. Your commentary has been brought back to the Traffic Advisory or Transportation Advisory Committee, and our in-house experts are then going to be speaking with Velo Quebec, and we're not there yet, but yes.
Okay. To quickly comment on the so controversial Claremont pilot project, have you considered, instead of closing the diagonal, to close the part of Claremont that's just what's being currently used for traffic instead, to please the people who are rather upset?
You mean close the bottom part of the triangle, like the section on Westmount Avenue?
No, the part directly on Claremont. Just because it, yeah.
You can't. That's how you get to Marianopolis.
But having the diagonal be open?
The diagonal goes, we'll call it south, goes towards Westmount Avenue, but from Westmount Avenue, people going to Marianopolis need to get to Marianopolis.
Okay.
So that's what Claremont was used for before. It was both ways. If you take it out, then we've got a problem.
Thank you.
But thanks for suggestion.
No problem. Trying to make your lives a
Question?
bit easier. Any update on the suggestion for having rolling days at Summit Woods where dogs would be not allowed off leash?
No, we don't have an update on that. I think that we have found a balance right now that the vast majority of Westmounters are supportive of. So we're going to keep this in place for a little bit and look at some of the data we're collecting in terms of fines and usage and things like that.
Great. And then finally, another quick comment on the United Church on Lansdowne. I've seen the article in Westmount Independent saying the sentiment for the proposed plan is well received. Personally, I disagree. I think taking a building such as specifically the church off the market and making it into a private residence is one kind of
I think that was a paid advertisement, right? That was that article was a
there was also
that was a paid advertisement by the owner of the building.
Anyways, to continue, I think it's fine to create buildings on the ancillary part of the lot where there's space for it, but to convert the building and take it off the market, completely kind of negating the potential use to the public, is very ill-advised.
Okay.
And so I hope just that you don't change the zoning to allow that, because it is quite the building.
There's a very prescriptive process for any zoning change. So you would, and you live in the neighborhood, so you would
2
fall
houses down.
within the area that would be impacted and could participate in anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Next question.
Hello. This is again concerning the Claremont Triangle project. So it seems from what I've been able to gather that there's actually no real driver of the pilot. I think you guys would agree, but more of a let's dive into it and see what benefits might arise. I feel like that's along the lines of what I have gathered here. And so my question is actually for Councillor Gallery. And my question is, do you feel that it's wise to continue a pilot with no ultimate goal, seeing as how it has been demonstrated to create numerous safety hazards?
So typically the questions are asked through me, and if I don't answer them, I ask a counselor if they want to participate, but that's how question period goes. I don't know if Councillor Gallery wants to respond, but I do think she might take issue with being said that there's no driver of this, but.
Personally, I've followed it as closely as you have. I'm trusting the process, and I think we're doing the responsible thing as a council to look in the alternatives if they are warranted or not, and we're going to take it seriously, all the feedback that's in the room, and we're going to work with the engineer and road specialists who will be advising and running the meeting later in September, which I unfortunately will not be able to attend, but I think it's wise what we're doing, and I think the feedback is real, and we're hearing you, but we have a responsibility to look in the future of the next 50 years of rebuilding a road. So I'm trusting the process, and I support the process. So
Sure. I just want to clarify that it seems that the feedback that I am hearing from the public is that people actually want to end the pilot. It's not that they hope at the end of the pilot that we will vote in a certain direction. From what I've heard tonight, I think everybody who has commented on it has put forward an opinion that it should be ended.
Okay.
And
fair,
so
and that's noted.
Thank you. And essentially, I just want to ask if you guys felt that there's anybody who is actually pushing in the opposite direction. Have you guys had that from any person from the public at all who is saying
That they're
they think
supportive
that
of this?
Supportive of the pilot?
Yep. I think one's waving right behind you. Who lives in the neighborhood. I've heard it from others as well. So yeah, I mean, they don't typically come to council, but it's, yes, we have heard from lots of people. I know other people that have been stopped and engaged in, I don't know, maybe it was you, like engaged with people and they don't feel the impact is negative, but they also don't live right there. right? They may live a little bit further down on Claremont or Chesterfield or Windsor, and so they're not feeling the same impacts. But yeah, we hear from all sorts of people.
Okay, good. Well,
But
thank you. I may have misunderstood, but it seemed like she was actually suggesting a different outcome of the project than what you guys are putting forward. So maybe it's not actually exactly in agreement with what you guys have put forward.
I think she was just making a comment, but you're welcome to talk to her afterwards. I say that on her behalf. I have no idea if you're welcome to talk to her. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
The final question, and then we have to move on to our online questions.
Yes, thank you. Again, a question about the Claremont pilot. Sort of a follow-up on the comment about resolution number 16, how expensive it was, 2.8 million for the Dorchester asphalt repairs. And yet we're hearing multiple references to possibly widening Claremont. And at the last August 5th Council, you mentioned the possibility of Claremont being widened to give access to Marianopolis for the synthetic soccer field. So it's a bit confusing, the costs of rebuilding a road, and yet, on the other hand, a project that was done that nobody really asked for, to close that street, and yet also finding money to close the street and to possibly widen and add a third lane onto Claremont, and yet how expensive it is for repaving on Dorchester. Could we understand the costs associated with widening Claremont and the costs associated with closing NDG Avenue above the Claremont Triangle?
I don't have a cost to give you, and I can't give you any cost, nor would I ever publicly indicate what we estimate it to cost before we went out to tender. But no, I don't have a cost to give you. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Given that in recent...
we have an estimate of what the entire project of rebuilding Claremont will cost.
No, the cost of the pilot was the question. Given that we're now hearing through the Westmount Examiner, thank you, that...
Westmount Independent.
Westmount, good old days, Westmount Independent. We're now hearing that less about safety as a driver, less about environmental as a driver, and more that there are cost issues associated with maintaining that street. So thank you, enough on that subject. Just a follow-up question from...
The questions are directed to me.
Okay, so it was just in response, though, to something from the Director General and from êTRE Geoffrey Béliveau about the WSP contract. I'm happy to get some follow-up from you afterwards. My understanding was, well, first of all, it's a sole source contract. And the suggestion was that the contract came from the administration, and the administration's responsible, and that council didn't really know about it.
No.
No. Okay, so I misunderstood that. Okay, thank you. Could you clarify that, please? No, I understand, but there's a lot at stake. There's a lot at stake here.
I think you've made your. I think you've made your point, and
just understanding about the contract, which I'd like more information, because my understanding is that there was 3 volets and that there's a prefix pour les 2 autres volets, and that might have raised it to the level where council would have known or been informed.
En fait, ce que vous pouvez faire, c'est que vous pouvez envoyer votre demande par écrit spécifiquement sur ce que vous voulez.
Parfait.
Ouais.
Parfait.
Et il y a aussi le processus de demande d'accès à l'information.
Parfait. But I think you were speaking over each other. Did the mayor say that you were informed?
I was informed that that we were going ahead with this. I'm not sure what angle you're trying to get at here. I think we've been very, very honest.
Furthermore, just understanding, because it was sort of going back and forth. So thank you for your answers.
Thank you.
I'm going to look forward to getting a bit more information about the contract.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we move to the?
I'll submit you.
We'll move to the online questions, please.
Yes, good evening. We have 12 questions. So the first one is from Charles Kaplan. Hello, my question is in the form of a suggestion. 500 meters too far. I believe that the image of Westmount as an inclusive municipal and Quebec partner would be greatly enhanced by renaming the last 500 meters of Dorchester René Lévesque. This modern leadership decision would remove an unnecessary negative stereotype of progressive Westmount of today. Will the council make this timely positive choice?
Thank you for your question, but it's certainly not something that I would take on at this point, the renaming of that stretch. I think people are very attached to the name Dorchester, and that doesn't take anything away from the accomplishments that are many of René Lévesque as the Premier of Quebec. Next question.
Next question is from Julianne Robinson. Has something been planned to enhance the entrance to the city? Apart from a little sign, it's not exactly clear where city limits are. Why not consider larger sidewalks, some kind of floral setup, or even public work of art to clearly underline the boundaries? It could be done progressively, one entrance at a time, starting with Sherbrooke and the Boulevard. This would make the city more welcoming while also sending a message to visitors and bypassers that they are entering Westmount and need to slow down. It could also become a source of pride for Westmounters.
There's lots of many good suggestions in there, and I think we'll take them into consideration. And certainly it's one of the main issues that we talk a lot about with the revitalization of the southeast section, where we are doing some significant public consultations right now. It's just that it's a gateway into Westmount that is not the gateway that perhaps we would all desire for the city of Westmount. So thank you for the great suggestions.
Third question by James Metzinger. A few weeks ago, I asked you about why Marianopolis is allowed to have a frost fence in front of its property, whereas ordinary citizens have to pay for nice fences. Your answer is that public institutions benefited from an exemption. In case you don't know, Marianopolis is a private institution. So here is my question again. Why is there an exemption for private institution? Should it not be more important for everyone and every institution to preserve the heritage and the beauty of our city?
Thank you for your question. It is, it may be, I mean, it's a semi-private institution, but it's a school and it falls under our bylaw, our bylaw with schools.
La quatrième question était par Madame Chalanibel, question qu'en fait elle est venue poser en personne, donc je vais la passer.
Okay, merci.
Nous arrivons à la question numéro 5. Frederick Gervin, Mayor Christina Smith. In July 2020, a heavy downpour resulted in sewer backing up in Westmount. Sherbrooke Street was partially flooded, and retail store basement along Sherbrooke were flooded. This August, the torrential rainfall surpassed the 2020 event, and as far as I know, there were no claims in Westmount, but many other in municipalities had basement with several feet of water. Can we give credit to Westmount Public Works Service and Sanivac for a well-executed preventive maintenance program?
Thank you, Mr. Gervin, for your feedback. I'll be sure that they hear it. It's also, and you're not wrong, many people will remember just a few years ago some of those water issues, but it's also why it's so important when we rebuild any road that we take into consideration how we manage the water. So that was very much a part of our Lexington rebuild, our Westmount Avenue rebuild, our Grosvenor rebuild, as well recently Mount Stephen, which had some significant water retention put into it, Mount Pleasant. So this is built into any new road construction project, like you will see on Claremont. When that gets rebuilt, water is a major, major factor of how we deal with roads. It's why we can't just put pavement on top of mountain right now. We have to deal with, we've done the water lining, and now we have to rebuild how we manage the water on the street. So thank you for your important question, and I'll be happily send along the commentary to the engineering team and the public works team.
Sixième question par Richard Dufour. As confirmed by one of your urban planning advisors, Amélie Pelletier, the city of Westmount will now allow auxiliary dwelling units under certain conditions. This is in alignment with the new provincial bylaw 31, forcing municipality to permit such in bylaw or granny suites. The provincial bylaw, which Westmount claims to adhere to, now allows homeowners who have a detached single-family home anywhere in Westmount to either convert a portion of their house or create an addition to allow for a new separate address, providing all other municipal regulations are respected. Question: will the city make any modification to their zoning bylaw to extend these provisions to other types of building, such as semi-detached or row houses? And will the city be modifying any other zoning bylaws to provide any further allowances or restriction regarding auxiliary dwelling units?
Thank you very much, Mr. Dufour, for your question. This is a very new legislation in Quebec. Councillor Peart's going to answer as best we can at this point.
So, Mr. Dufour, I must congratulate you on being up to speed, because this
Hot off the
change
press.
in provincial legislation is maybe 2 weeks old. I mean, it is fresh. Our urban planning department is well aware of it. They are the provincial legislation. I've only seen it very briefly, but it does set up the framework through which a municipality can change the regulations to satisfy the provincial regulations, and it is that exercise that we are currently reviewing and evaluating internally. So the short answer is yes, we're aware. The slightly longer answer is that we're working on something, and hopefully we should see the fruit of that labor sometime soon.
Thank you. Next question.
From Gary Scavone. It's 2 questions, actually. So the first one is, I moved to Westmount, Lansdowne Avenue in 2013. Since then, there has been no repair to the street or sidewalks between Sherbrooke and Maisonneuve. I was told at a previous council meeting many years ago that the street was being studied, but nothing has changed. In fact, it should be changed to a one-way street going south, since it is not sufficiently wide enough to support car travel in both directions and a bike lane. What are the plans for Lansdowne Avenue, and when will they be implemented? Do you want me to go with the other
Yeah,
question?
you can go with the next one as well.
Okay, so the second one is, since I moved to Westmount in 2013, Sherbrooke Street has never been repaved. I think it is clear to everyone and their cars that it needs paving. When will that be done?
So thank you for your question. 2 parts, Lansdowne and then Sherbrooke Street. And I think anyone who walks around our city can see that we have no shortage of infrastructure projects that we need to do, that the state of our roads, our sidewalks, our parks, our buildings, our hydro network, our water network, all of it is in desperate need of repair. And so much of the work that we do is driven by the underground infrastructure and the state of the underground infrastructure, primarily the water networks and where they're at. So that is the driver of things, and obviously, safety and whatnot. Sherbrooke Street with its undulation is terrible. It's terrible for pedestrians. It's terrible for seniors that are walking around there. And that is something that we are looking at for the capital works budget that we are really right in the thick of right now. And that would be a paving. It would not be a full reconstruction. And as for Lansdowne, I wish I had better news for you, but that is not slotted for next year as a reconstruction. But we will continue to patch it and to repair it as much as we can. But it is not deemed a priority 1 project right now. So, final question.
Okay, so next one. So Frederick Gervin, would you consider flying the American flag when Vice President Kamala Harris becomes the next president of the United States?
I don't want to jinx anything. So I am just going to say that we're just going to keep quiet about our time in Canada right now and just hope that she can make this happen. And we are all quite proud, though, I think, that she does have a connection to our city, she went to high school here for a couple of years. But yeah, I don't want to jinx it.
Good. So
I have a lot to say on this subject, but I'm sure you all want to go home. I could go on for hours.
Another question from Richard Dufault.
Oui.
In June 2021, City Council created a governing board for Hydro Westmount, which has to meet 4 times a year and provide a recommendation in 2 years. Can you update the community on the status of this?
So that committee came to an end, and what we really realize we need with Hydro Westmount was some outside expertise, and we have gone out to tender for that expertise, and unfortunately have not had any submissions. But certainly, as I said very publicly over the past 2 years and more, is that Hydro Westmount is going to require significant infrastructure upgrades, and we need to find a very clear path forward for that. So that will take outside experts as well, and we thank the committee for their work, and it was just not the right, that we need to do this step as well.
Parfait. Nous avons 3 autres questions qui sont arrivées pendant la séance.
Ah oui? OK.
Donc, nous avons de Normand Beauregard.
Oui.
En fait, qui est plus un commentaire qu'une question, je crois. Attendez-moi. J'écoute la séance du Conseil et je suis déçue de l'attitude de certains de mes concitoyens qui semblent voir d'un très mauvais œil le projet pilote sur Claremont. Peut-on cesser de chialer et de prêter des intentions? Dans la vie, il faut tenter des choses. Dans ce cas-ci, on ne parle que d'un projet pilote. Pourquoi toute cette contestation? Essayons et voyons, et si ça ne fonctionne pas, il sera toujours temps de revenir en arrière. On ne cesse de parler d'amélioration de la qualité de vie, d'apaisement de la circulation. Si on veut que les choses changent, il faut oser entreprendre des changements. Sinon, le statu quo sera toujours plus confortable. J'espère que les membres du Conseil auront le courage et l'audace de poursuivre dans cette voie et de tenter des expériences sans se laisser décourager par la minorité des citoyens qui ne veut pas que les choses changent.
Je pense que c'est plus un commentaire qu'une question, mais merci beaucoup d'envoyer les commentaires.
Ensuite, nous avons une question de Oren Nutik. I want to bring up the topic of traffic on Grosvenor. This is the #1 issue in this city regarding safety and quality of life. The speeding has increased on Grosvenor between Westmount and the boulevard, and especially at the boulevard where drivers try to beat the light. There has been so much focus on the Claremont Triangle that Grosvenor and elementary school zone and corridor scolaire has been neglected. So many resources have been dedicated to this triangle. The resident of Grosvenor asked that some be allocated to our school block. The mayor just stated that whenever Westmount rebuilds a road, safety is the priority. Grosvenor has been left with 2 half-speed bumps. This is not sufficient. I wish to ask for at least full-speed bumps and maybe a third one. Grosvenor is in Montreal north of Sunnyside and has 4 speed bumps and a stop sign. Marcel, Oxford, and Harvard near Malklin now have 3 speed bumps per block. We need to slow down cars and decrease the volume of traffic.
Thank you for your feedback. I'll certainly ask the traffic committee if we can add a third in there. And they are like the rubberized mats ones. They're a different kind of speed bump, but we can also, or speed cushion. We can look at what they do. If there's a different format to put in, what we did do on that street is that we did add the bump outs. We made wider sidewalks. We narrowed the street with the bump outs in the middle as well to sort of, which is a way to calm traffic. But it's difficult. The volume is difficult to manage. But certainly, if we can add anything else onto the street, we can look at that.
And the last question from Anna Victoria Aguirre. Good evening. Would it be possible to list the addresses which have been discussed by the PAC on its meeting held in July, August, point 17 and 18 in today's agenda?
They are listed. So they are listed in what would be the agenda that's available online for the PAC that was held on July 30th and August 1st. So those addresses are listed online. If you can't find them, I think they're pretty easy to find, but they are within them, and you have to like scroll through to item 18. But if you're looking for more recent PAC meetings, they won't be up until October. Those ones will get passed in October, the ones at the end of August.
That's it.
That's it. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for taking the time. The meeting is adjourned.